You are enough. You have to get really comfortable in the fact that you are enough. You do not have to be a different person. You do not need a different set of character traits. You just need to be you, because that's what you're meant to be to make your way in this world. And that's what you're meant to be in this work. That's what makes it so cool. What makes it so neat to see all the different personalities and the different styles. And, that's the beauty of it, right? This is for everyone. Who you are being in the work is really the most important thing, provided you're consistent. And consistency is the key to the work. But consistency comes from one word: commitment. That's what leads to consistency in every avenue in life. Once you develop commitment, and I would argue commitment has to come first, because consistency represents a measure of self-discipline. And that means doing things when you don't always feel like it. And now I'm not going to go into that topic. I did that in the last training and actually carved it out and made a small video, but that's my superpower. My superpower is I show up. I just show up. I show up in the gym. I show up for the people I care about. I show up and serve for you. I show up in the work and do what's necessary. It doesn't matter if I'm good or bad or whatever. Key things, very simple: nice, honest, respectful, and bold. You put those four things together, you can't lose. You get a little further down the road, then things like integrity are going to really show themselves. And integrity comes through example, right? Because integrity means whole, being pure and whole, essentially, right? So being what you're talking about, being what you're representing, right? That is powerful, right? What you say is never, ever going to show more than what you do in life, right? That's just the bottom line. Courage and humility, you marry those things and you don't have a ceiling. Again, the ceiling isn't here, right? That's where the ceiling is. And then I'm going to talk just a second about speed in your work. So speed is typically a function of a few things, especially for a beginner. It's a function of numbers, of course. You can't go fast without talking to a lot of people, right? That's the nature of it. But it's also a function of credibility. If you already have a lot of credibility with folks, then when you share with someone, it's going to be looked at in a different way. And then it's a little bit of skill. You don't need a ton of skill to be effective, because we have great tools and you're not doing anything complex. You're not trying to be an expert. You're just sharing, right? You're sharing your experience. You're sharing what you believe in, and someone can take it or leave it, and it's okay, whatever they do. But as you begin to grow, very, very important to understand growth. Right? So essentially the way growth works, and this is true in every facet of growth, is you grow a little bit and then you plateau. But a plateau, it's not actually a plateau, it's a channel, right? So it's a channel of highs and lows within a range, right? That will be true of everything. If you study anything in the world, it looks like this, right? That's the nature of it. It channels for a bit, and then based on the continued effort, the continued growth of the human, right? Whatever is going on, whatever the size of the project is, you will either break through or you will break down. Break down is just quitting. That's what that is, right? Breaking through is staying in it and understanding that you have to navigate your plateaus, right? You have to navigate the channel. And then through that process, and I have a video on YouTube. I don't know if I used the word wilderness. Wilderness to me is the word. It is that space that you're in when you feel like, I don't know what's going on. I'm doing all the right stuff, but nothing changes, right? Then you can associate this to everything in your life because you've experienced this, right? It's classically, John Maxwell calls it a wilderness period, right? And if you are not experiencing multiple wilderness periods in your life, then you are stagnant, right? You're not pursuing in life. You're just being in the same spot, because wilderness is part of the journey, right? Those oases that you get to eventually, and that's where you break through. right? You break through, you bust through that glass ceiling, you've been channeling, and then boom, you grow and you experience the growth, right? And I'm saying when you experience the growth, I'm talking about result-wise in the thing you are doing, right? But growth is always happening. Make no mistake, for the person who is consistent, it's happening every moment, right? It's happening in your credibility because you're staying with it, not just your credibility with others, but with yourself. The more you make a commitment and discipline yourself to stick to, the higher credibility with yourself grows. And self-credibility is a power tool. That is something you can just simply apply everywhere you want to in your life because the fundamentals are always the same in everything. Your impact begins to grow. So even when you're channeling, you get more and more feedback that you're making a difference or people are noticing things. Your confidence begins to grow. Your attitude improves. Your skills develop. Those things are all invisible to you because you're not usually looking at that. You're not looking in the mirror and going, how much did I grow today, right? I would say I spend the majority and have spent the majority of my business career in the wilderness. I have no problem saying that, right? Because I'm constantly questioning myself. I'm constantly questioning what's happening. That's just the nature. And so when you're in the wilderness, that's when you go, okay, I'm on the right track. I'm trying to get better. Not, oh, it's not going to work, because that's the quitter's perspective. That's the person who ends up holding on to the same problem for their entire lifetime.